everyone. Surprise, I'm live just slightly early. And I was actually going to cancel today's stream because I streamed last night. I was up really late. I have work I wanted to get done. There are 2 different articles I want to write for my Substack that I do think will still be posted today, just not quite as soon as I'd like them to be. And but so I was actually going to cancel today's stream because I was like, you know what? People got enough last night. A lot of people weren't watching. And then I found out that the ongoing grift train of Eliza Blue is continuing. And I can't help myself. I'm sorry. I cannot help myself. These types of videos do really well on the channel. It's just the way it goes. And I found out that Blaire White, who I cannot stand because she is a mindless, brainless grifter who only writes what is written for her, or who only says what is written for her, has no brain of her own, to be really honest. And I say that from direct personal experience. I found out that she is wading in to the Eliza Blue grift train, and Blaire is premiering in 10 minutes her investigation of Eliza Blue, which I'm sure was completely conducted by her. I'm sure contains evidence and receipts, the ones that, we haven't yet seen in this entire fucking grift train. I am sure that this is going to be just an impeccably researched event that is not at all just clickbait on the internet, in which Blaire White is going to act like an adult and give a reasoned and nuanced discussion of, things that are based in reality, things that she's going to have receipts to back up everything that she said. Unlike every other person who has commented on this, Blaire White is absolutely going to bring us the receipts. So I thought we'd watch it live. Fuck it. Why not? If I'm eventually going to watch it anyway, why not just do it live and get it over with? And it should be starting in about 9 minutes. So I thought I'd go live just a little bit early to tell you about some other things. Now, if you missed last night's stream, I would like to just strongly recommend that you check it out. Hang on, I'll go over to my channel. We're going to talk about nothing remotely controversial in a second. But last night I basically did a stream kind of on the fly. It's right here. Not that one. That one right there. Tim Pool destroys Eliza Blue, the quartering, Brittany Venti, etc., etc. It was a late night stream in which basically we watched what Tim Pool did last night, and then we watched some of the quartering stream and we talked about it. I think Tim is projecting. I really do. I don't actually think there's a paid smear campaign going on in this. I think Tim is absolutely projecting. But you know what? Last night's stream was so much fun. Gertrude, wasn't it fun? We just had such a great time. And so I'd encourage everyone to go back and watch that. It was just like that was one of the most fun streams I've done in a while. So I really wanted to thank you for that. Yes, apparently Blaire White got her payment from the PR company. For those who don't know, Tim Pool basically went on his show last night and he said that everyone talking about this is part of a paid reputation management campaign in order to make Eliza famous. And so they're creating both positive and negative publicity for her just to make her famous, like one of these reputation management firms. I think that Tim said that because Tim is projecting what Tim himself has done. But, with Blaire White wading into this, why does Blaire White care about this? Blaire White doesn't care about kids. I know that because when I went to a school board meeting at the Libertarian, when the Libertarian Party of New Hampshire, including myself, because I'm a member of the Libertarian Party of New Hampshire, when we went to protest a school board meeting where a school was covering up for teachers who were sexually molesting students, and I and other people as well, it wasn't just me, got a no trespass order after that school board meeting because I yelled, "We know where you live" at the school board meeting. There was general rabble-rousing. It was part of a plan to piss them off. But I and other people got no trespass orders out of that meeting. Blaire White, instead of going after the school who was covering up for teachers sexually molesting students, Blaire White totally excused that, thought it was totally okay, and she came after me instead. So Fuck you, Blaire. You don't care about any of this. I know you don't care about any of this because you excused a school who was covering up for teachers sexually molesting students. There was no debate about this. It was documented all over the media. There was multiple videos of this, and Blaire White sided with the school who was covering this shit up so she could attack me on Twitter. If you want to know who people are, watch their behaviors. So, I want to see what a great investigator Blaire White is in this. And we're going to get started in about 6 minutes, I suppose. But guys, just want to tell you some other things. Now, of course, it is Tuesday night, and that means at 9:30, I'm going to be back. This is not my last stream of the day. It is but the first stream of the day. And Joshua and I will be going live tonight for Nothing Remotely Controversial. And I'll tell you what, at the top of the list of questions I have is Tim Pool right? Is this a paid PR campaign to make Eliza Blue famous? Is Eliza Blue in on it, or are there other people involved? We can ask questions about other things as well. There are probably, if we're going to be quite frank, there are probably more important things in the world that we could be talking about and probably should be. But sometimes it's okay to take a break. And listen, you guys know I do a lot of serious content on this channel. If you're going to come in and complain that I'm doing drama content, here is the reality of the situation. The drama content on my channel does better than any of the serious content that I do on this channel. By far, it's not even close. And so if you want me to do more serious content, you have to watch the serious content. You have to watch it. You have to share it because the serious content is actually where I'm happiest. And it's, I think, my best work. I think I'm doing amazing content about what's going on in the world in terms of fighting back against the woke left, exposing what the woke left are doing, talking about it, showing you guys, teaching you. We do Socialism Saturday. But like, if you want more serious content and less nitwits, then you need to watch the serious content. Because what I'm seeing in the numbers repeatedly is that people are watching the drama content and not watching the serious content. And that's just the way it goes. And listen, I'm not going to give up my serious content because that's actually where I'm happiest and where I think I'm doing my best work. But this is just the way YouTube works, man. And if you don't like it, change what you're watching. Honestly, nothing would please me more. Yes, bot, you can go tell them I'm sniping the stream, and I don't really care if they have feelings about it. Blaire White can go fuck thyself. I also want to let you guys know that tomorrow morning, that's not what I was looking for. There it is. Tomorrow morning, I will be getting my ass out of bed early. Now, I know 10 o'clock doesn't seem early to a lot of you in order to wake up in the morning, but you need to understand that I typically work until 2 or 3 in the morning, and then I sleep in, and I get up, and I'm a little bit lazy, and I have some coffee, and I read the news, and stuff like that. So for me to get up and to be streaming at 10 a.m. in the morning, there would have to be a really good reason for it. But there is indeed a really good reason for it. Tomorrow, there are going to be hearings in Congress in which former Twitter executives are going to be testifying. And I want to watch it live. I want to see what they're going to say. I want to see how Congress is grilling the former Twitter executives. And so I'm going to start streaming those hearings tomorrow at 10 a.m. And I'm just going to stream as long as it goes. Now, this is going to disrupt my supporter community call, which I'm going to be talking to you guys about that are in my supporter community. For those who wanted, so I have a normal Wednesday call at noon with my supporter. It's a private Zoom call. It's unrecorded. That call can still take place. I'm happy to give someone the Zoom link to do it. I just need people to volunteer to host the call, because if you guys want to talk about other things and don't want to watch the congressional hearings, that's totally fine. If you still want to connect as a community, that's totally fine. I don't always need to be there for those calls. I just need to know who is going to host the meeting, and I will give you hosting privileges for the Zoom. So we'll work that out among the supporter community. I have a bunch of people in my community I'm very blessed that do step in to host for me when I do stuff like this. But I think it's important to watch this stuff live. Bot, you're not going to host. Come on. Well, I mean, you can if you want to. But I'm going to reach out to some folks. If you still want to do the supporter call, you can. I just might not be there because I'm going to be doing this. We're going to see how long these hearings go. And I might be streaming all day. Who knows? That would actually be really great. Hope there's lots of fireworks. But that's going to be tomorrow starting at 10 a.m. And if you want to get up early and have a cup of coffee with me, well, for most, like, again, I know I'm such a bitch for saying that getting up at 10 a.m. is early. But again, if you want to have your coffee with me and watch some congressional hearings, that's what we're going to be doing tomorrow. I also just want to remind everyone that I did launch a new tier in my Patreon last night. I was inspired by Tim Pool's assertion that this is all a paid PR campaign. And I just want people to know that if you want to pay me to shit talk Chrissy Mayer or The Quartering or Brittany Venti or Blaire White or Cassandra Fairbanks or any number of other influencers as part of a concerted PR campaign, I can totally be bought. I will make at least 2 shit-talking videos a week for $2,500 a month. This level is now in my Patreon. This is mostly a joke, if I'm honest about it. But if someone actually wanted to pay me to do this, I would happily take your money and I would make at least 2 shit-talking videos a week about the influencer that you select. And I have to agree to it. I'm not going to just do anyone. I have to legitimately feel like they need to be admonished for something. Just because she's been around a long time doesn't mean she's not a grifter. She's absolutely a grifter. I've met this woman in person on several occasions. This woman does not think for herself at all. All she's interested in is makeup and clothes. And anything you see her say in public is written for her, bro. But she's going to have a clothing line and a makeup line someday, and she's going to make a lot of money. So good for her. But I'm still going to call a spade and tell the truth about what's going on. Anyway, if you want to do that, that's in my Patreon. And of course, I will be launching 1, possibly 2 more articles today in my Substack. And that is going to be happening as well. Okay, 2 minutes. We got 2 minutes. So I'm just going to say this real quick. I am going to be launching, I'm going to list a couple articles in my Substack today, and there's actually going to be some really fun stuff coming up. I've got a story about a college professor in Florida who doesn't know exactly what the law says. I've also got some stuff from Socialism Saturday that I want to share with you guys. If you want to subscribe to my Substack for free, head over to Carlyn, KARLYN.substack.com. Oh, you could absolutely pay me to shit talk Matt Walsh. Maybe we'll do that next time. So if you want to subscribe for free, I'm also trying to get 50 new subscribers this month that are paid to support my work. $5 a month, $50 a year. It really helps me out. I'm publishing almost every single day to my Substack. You'll get updates right to your inbox. I'm doing the most unique, unwoke content on the internet, only telling you the things you need to know, breaking it down, teaching you what's really going on. And you can find that over on my Substack. And if you haven't read this article about the far left wanting to incubate babies in the bodies of brain dead women, it's the most dystopian thing you'll read all week, guys. I promise you. Check it out on the Substack right now. All right, we're getting started in about 45 seconds. Let me just get the sound set up so you guys can hear the sound here. And we'll see what Blaire White has to say about this entire situation. And as a reminder, okay, you guys can hear that. As a reminder, as we're getting started, I know for a fact Blaire White doesn't give a shit about this stuff, because when I went and protested a school for covering up that teachers were sexually molesting students, Blaire White came after me for that, and also members of the Libertarian Party of New Hampshire. She gave the school a pass. So Blaire White can go fuck herself. Let's see what she has to say.
And do I feel that some minors
I knew it.
More
I knew it. This is a libertarian thought experiment.
A child sex trafficking survivor. Now she's advocating for the many children being exploited for profit.
If the child so desires to have
this is a libertarian thought experiment. I've already talked about what this is. She's not advocating for grooming. That's not what this is. Blaire White is already lying to you right off the bat. Blaire White is lying to you because she's not smart enough to know exactly what she's looking at. That's what happened.
Guys, welcome back to my channel. Today we are talking
God
about the
damn these
Smollett
people
of the right, Eliza Blue.
These
if you
people,
have even one
fucking
foot in the
grifters,
door
all
of
of
the
them.
right-wing algorithm on Twitter or YouTube, you've seen her face, you've seen her name, her like 5th name, by the way. We're on her 5th invented identity.
Oh, that must mean everything, Blaire. Oh my God, she had stage names. Oh my God.
She's made appearances on almost every notable and relevant right-wing podcast, from The Blaze Daily Wire, Timcast, Michael Malice. She's been everywhere. She even grifted close enough to the Sun to develop a personal relationship with Elon Musk.
She doesn't have a
and help
personal
dictate
relationship with Elon
policy
Musk. She's
on
already,
Twitter, making
that's
her
not true.
objectively one of the most powerful people on
None of
social
what
media.
Blaire just said
Her
is
claim to
true,
fame
which
is
we
being
know
a
from
human
Shane Cashman's article.
trafficking
Blaire just
survivor
lied.
advocate, although she's recently been exposed for allegedly fabricating the entire story.
Oh,
of her
Blaire
being
believes the
human
Daily
trafficked,
Beast.
and the
Oh,
timeline of her
congratulations, Blaire.
so-called
You
victimhood
believe a
is
left-wing
collapsing
smear
in real
outlet.
time.
Friends of Eliza Blue claim that she is exaggerating her experiences for attention.
Blaire
and
White
clout,
is simping for
telling
the Daily
Beast,
fucking
quote,
Beast.
"It's making a lot of her old friends around here
Don't
really
tell
angry,"
me she's
said
real.
Carly Wenzel, who claims to have known Blue for 2 decades,
Oh
adding that
my
she's completely
God.
lying.
Look, there are a lot of questions about whether she was actually a victim of sexual trafficking.
I
And
should be
just wanna
taking
say,
notes.
There are few forms of activism that I respect more than any individuals who wish to put even a dent in the monstrosity that is human trafficking.
Bullshit,
That is a
Blaire. You
worthwhile
attacked
fight in
me
my
for
eyes,
trying to
and
do
so
just that. Go
anyone who
fuck
takes up that
yourself.
mantle, I think I speak for most people when I say that people view people like that as righteous. People view people like that as having their morals intact and inspirational, really.
Blaire White's
inspiring
gonna end
all
up
of
with
us
the
that we
Daily
can
Wire
do
someday.
more
Watch,
in
it's
that
absolutely
fight.
gonna happen.
But what happens when someone lies about being a human trafficking
Do you have
survivor?
evidence?
What happens when someone
Do you have evidence she lied?
fabricates that victimhood?
Do you have
grifts
receipts?
off that alleged victimhood?
Or are you
achieves
just
fame,
defaming her?
success, awards based on that fabricated victimhood. That is what's being alleged.
Blaire
about
doesn't do
Eliza
live
Blue.
streams
So let's
because
get into
Blaire
it.
does not
But
write her own
depending on what
content,
year
and
you
she
come
reads a
across
script
this
that is
human
written
named
for
Eliza,
her.
you know her as different
She
things
can't
based
do
on
this off
whatever
the cuff.
identity she currently has,
Even with as
whatever
much
alias
experience
and
as she
persona,
has.
invented persona,
Not capable of doing
you
this.
catch her in. Got to break out the list here because there's just so many names over the years I have to keep up with. There's Eliza Morthland, Eliza Cuts, Eliza Seep, Eliza Knows, and now Eliza Blue.
So
We're currently
what?
on Eliza Blue.
That doesn't mean
However, these
anything.
identities
That
range
literally
from failed
means
reality
nothing.
star.
Now, Eliza lives a rock and roll lifestyle. She says she's pretty exciting.
How many
but
shows
she
has
still
Blaire
has
been on?
problems when it
How
comes
many?
to men.
I'm self-seeking, self-centered, and fear-based.
Emo groupie who made a name for herself on MySpace, hanging out with Jeffree Star and earning herself a pretty bad reputation in the My Chemical Romance fandom because she allegedly, as the lore goes, stalked the hell out of Gerard Way.
Doesn't
the
it
frontman
look
of
like
the
he
band
was
My Chemical
stalked
Romance,
right
made
there?
herself unavoidable, stalked him, basically got into a relationship with him, faked a pregnancy. This is all alleged. And then, this isn't alleged, went to write fan fictions about him after their breakup, which is very bizarre. That's a whole video in and of itself, though.
Those
Once that
fan
grift
fictions are
expired,
bizarre.
she
I have
picked
read
up a
them.
black
Well, at least
scent
one of
and
them.
decided her new target audience wasn't the emos, it was the blacks.
I was blessed to work with one of the dopest directors in the game. Like, Video God, literally, like, if you look at his resume, I was so blessed as a world star, as a plus size model. That's what's crazy with the world is that I still would have been plus even in that world star video. And I look at that now and I'm like, dang, I was so skinny, but it was the summer.
And suddenly she was an urban hip hop video vixen. Once that grift expired, she set sights on her new and most current grift, right-wing influencer. The topic
Just
of
like
Jeffrey
you,
Epstein
Blaire,
and
as it
human
turns
trafficking
out,
was and still is very
something you
hot
know something
within the
about,
online
projecting
rights
just like
sphere.
Tim
People
Pool,
talk
aren't
about it
you?
all the time. The situation was ripe for someone to come in claiming to be a human trafficking survivor and become an influencer based on that supposed
It's like people can't
identity.
go through
Eliza
different stages
finally
in life
found a grift that
in the
stuck.
land of
So
the
much so that
internet
she had the
grifters.
ear of one of the richest and objectively most powerful men on the planet, Elon Musk.
She drew Elon's attention and was, I think, very informally, like,
Eliza
where you can see
Blue
it on
told
Twitter,
Shane
advising
Cashman
him
that she
on
doesn't
what
even
accounts
know
are bad,
Elon
you know,
Musk.
confront sex trafficking on the platform.
There's
She had
no
the
evidence
hosts
that they
of
know
major
each
right-wing
other,
podcasts
apart from
eating
Twitter
up her story,
Spaces.
even though she never
None.
ever actually went into detail about who trafficked her, the situation she was in, the details of her supposed trafficking story. People just took it at
Except
face
she
value
has
because
now.
honestly,
And the article
who
came out
wants to be the
yesterday, Blaire,
person
that you
to go
obviously
against
didn't read
someone so
because you probably
virtuous?
can't
I'm
read.
speaking real.
I know
Who
it was
wants
really
to be the
long. It
person
didn't
to
have.
say
It only had a
that
couple
she's a fraud
pictures.
when she is so apparently selflessly using her story and her hurt and her pain to help people, specifically
This video was
minors
obviously
who were
produced
victims
before
of
Shane
human
Cashman's article
trafficking.
came out
I know
yesterday.
I wasn't going to want to be the first person to go after her until I started to see some cracks in her story.
Oh,
Some
yes.
old clips started
She's an
resurfacing of
investigator.
Eliza's. Yes, the old clip resurfacing. No influencer is safe from it. Happens to all of us. However, most people in that situation,
I'm glad that Blaire admits that she's an influencer and not
about,
anyone that does
6
anything of
invented
substance.
Personas that contradict each other. Clips from when she pretended to be Black resurfaced from the 2010s.
When
in
she
which
pretended
was
to be
a
Black?
video vixen doing music videos. Which is
How is
fine
she
enough on
pretending
its
to be
face,
Black?
minus the accent. I've always said people who, switch up their accents midway through life are batshit crazy, because there's never a reason to do that unless you move
How
to a
is she
different
pretending to be
country and
Black?
subconsciously, like, the way of speaking sort of rubs
That's
off
the
on
way
you.
she
That's one thing.
speaks.
But girl, no, you didn't change race. Rachel Dolezal. People started posting
Oh
screenshots
my
from these publicly
God.
available YouTube videos. Again, these videos were on YouTube.
I think
publicly
it's more
available, as
likely
well as
that
on
Blaire
World Star
White has
Hip-Hop.
borderline
Eliza didn't
personality
like that
disorder
so
than Eliza
much.
Blue
She
has
then reached
personality
into
disorder
her deep
or
connections
borderline.
at Twitter to get people banned off Twitter simply for, again,
She just
posting publicly
accused
available
Eliza Blue
images.
of being Rachel
People like
Dolezal.
Brittany Venti, who's currently still banned off
How?
Twitter because of this. People like YouTuber The Quartering and a lot of other people were literally taken down off Twitter. So the free speech advocate,
How is
the
she
woman
pretending
who
to be
has
Black?
all of the right-wing talking points down,
How?
right? She'll die on the hill of free speech, she repeatedly says, is suddenly engaging in mass censorship of people bringing up her past. Why? Because it reveals some major holes in her story. She's also been
White people
false-flagging
can't like
YouTube
hip hop?
creators. People like The Quartering, Brittany Venti, Star Wars Girl, all these channels have been false flagged, and more channels have been false flagged by her for daring to talk about her past, her lies, and her story. So in all likelihood, she may try to false flag this video. I would advise you against that, Eliza. If you're watching, that's not the war that you want.
No one is afraid
I'd
of
be
you,
lying if I said a
Blaire.
big part of why I'm doing this
Blaire
video
White is one of the
wasn't
most
to
frail
defend them
people I've
and
ever met in
to
real
speak up
life,
on their
just for the
behalf as well.
record.
Not that they're not speaking up on their
Extremely
own,
frail.
but,
Blaire
you know,
White had to do a
I
shot of
just
vodka
don't
before
like
she
when
even
people
went
I
and
like are
participated in a
doing
walkaway
so.
debate because she was so
She
nervous.
claims
And
that
I'm
the
pretty
music
sure she
videos
had
she
like a whole
participated in
freaking
back
cup
when
of
she pretended to
vodka
be
with her
Black
during the
were
debate.
non-consensual,
Like,
and that's why
she
was
is
having
not
people
someone who is
banned.
scary.
Keep in mind, it's not as if people are posting revenge porn of her or something. I mean, these are publicly available music videos on YouTube. Now, again, Eliza claimed these music videos were non-consensual, but World Star Hip Hop begs to differ. They released a statement saying the videos were consensual and she was paid for them. There's an interview where she reveals that she actually reached out to
So what
World
we're
Star
learning is
herself
that Blaire
in
White
hopes
has
to
no
be
new
in these
information.
videos.
I just feel so blessed. And the way the whole thing came about, and I've never even
Yes,
told
Blaire
anybody
White is
this besides
accusing
maybe a
Eliza
couple
Blue of pretending to
girlfriends,
be Black because of how she
was
talks,
I
which is
had a
pretty
vision.
fucking
I couldn't
racist if you
sleep
ask
one
me.
night. I couldn't sleep one night. I couldn't sleep. And I had a vision. I said to myself, what would take me to the next level, like for myself? What will get me to that next level of that demographic that I want to reach, and bring them that art, bring them that fashion, but still keep it within the scope of what I'm doing. And at about 6 o'clock in the morning, I just got this thing in my head, like World Star. World Star reaches the most people, like honestly, like that I could reach. You know what I mean? I'm never going to be on entertainment television. I'm never going to be on TMZ. You know what I mean? Unless I do something crazy or stupid. Like, I'm never.
She claims to have been saved from human trafficking, a story for which she has never provided a drop of evidence, by the way, in 2013.
Do you have evidence that she
these
lied?
music videos, some of them were published after 2013. So if this was really a result of you being trafficked, why are they happening years after you claimed you have been saved from human trafficking?
Because Blaire White is a grifter shill who is jumping on the grift train.
She turned down $150,000
That's why.
booking offers. Now, booking, we all know what that means, girl. Booking, these bookings
Blaire
are for
White's
her time, right? And she talks about how
she's
she has
about
all
to
these
accuse
athletes and
Eliza of
famous
being an
people in her
escort.
DMs trying to book her. It's interesting.
She's
because if you
accusing
were
her of being a
actually
prostitute.
trafficked at this time, that
Huh.
would mean that you're not in control of what you do. That would mean you're being forced to engage with these
That's
men,
not what
right?
that
That's
means,
being
Blaire.
trafficked for sexual exploitation is. So someone who's been trafficked to engage with
It
men
is
for
how
money
she talks normally, Jamie.
certainly
I've talked to her in private when she talks
isn't
like that. It is
within
absolutely how
power
she talks
to
normally.
turn down bookings, and definitely not for $150K. But let's be real, ain't nobody paying $150K for Eliza Blue. Eliza claims to have started a charity called the Humanity House, which is a safe haven for victims of human trafficking. Sounds like a very worthwhile endeavor. Only one problem: that charity is not registered. There is no proof of that charity existing. And
It could be under a
there's no
different
proof of anyone ever
name.
being taken into this humanity house. So you're grifting off helping all these people. You're making GoFundMes based on your status. You're going on interviews talking about how you're helping all these people, and there is no proof
No
of
one
this charity
forced
actually
anyone to
existing,
donate to a
just your
GoFundMe,
word,
Blaire.
which so far, not the most solid. But then again, it begs the question, maybe Eliza, being real here, doesn't actually know what human trafficking is. Because in an interview with Michael Malice, she claims that she was trafficked on Twitter.
That Shane
And the
Cashman
extent of
article
that
is
was
going to be
basically that
real.
people made
We're going to
fake
read the Shane
profiles
Cashman
of her
article after this.
on Twitter.
Fuck Blaire
Trafficked
White.
on Twitter as well. So there's been 3 profiles to my knowledge that my former abusers
That
made
Shane
to
Cashman
traffic me
article
on
is
Twitter.
so
what does that mean that they
inconvenient to
trafficked
the
you on Twitter?
story
How can
that
someone
Blaire
traffic
White
you if
is
they're not in
shilling. It's
contact with you?
unbelievable.
Yeah, so the way that was working, I didn't know about the profiles existing because I wasn't on Twitter and I wasn't looking for them. The way that my former abusers were doing it is that it was going back to my Instagram. The Twitter accounts.
I have spoken to her in private multiple times. She absolutely speaks like that.
I don't know if I mean, for me to tell my story at length.
She's speaking
It's
like
gonna
that in
take
both
a
of these
while.
interviews.
I don't even
Jamie.
need
For me to
that.
answer questions about my story is going to
She's
take a
speaking
while.
like
So
that
I
right
know
now.
the basics of your story because I've listened to your podcast.
Right. So I'm trying to figure out exactly what the question is.
Well, I can ask you the
I didn't
questions.
agree to this. I didn't agree to this. All I agreed to was answering a few questions about Twitter.
Well, okay, sure. That's totally fine. But can I just
Katie
can I ask you the
Herzog
questions
has
or
done
email you
hit
the
pieces
questions
on
and you can
me that
decide
I
if you
have
wanna answer or not?
100% completely debunked. Do not trust anything Katie Herzog
mean,
says.
did you
Every
ask
single
her
thing
in
that this
advance
woman has
to
ever
do
said
that?
about me
No,
has
I
been
told her that I wanted
proven
to ask you
wrong
about the Twitter
based on
stuff and about your own
information
story.
that Katie
Okay, so
Herzog had
you-
access to. Katie Herzog is one of the
You
least
didn't
reliable
agree to tell her
sources that
everything
you are
you
going to
wanted to
No,
find
ask.
on
I-
the
I-
internet.
That's why we're on the phone.
No.
I started asking her about her personal trauma.
No,
Got it.
I that's
Okay.
not what happened. I
Katie,
said
I think we're probably going to be done here.
And
Good
keep
for
in
her.
mind, that video right there is the most she has ever gone into detail about her actually
She
being
doesn't have to
human
talk
trafficked.
about it,
She's never
Blaire.
named a name. She's never told the details. And granted, I'm not of the opinion that just because you were the victim of a crime, you have to go shouting the name of the person who did it to you from the rooftops.
Except you seem to
However,
be
combined
pressuring
with all
her
these
into doing that, aren't
contradictory
you?
timelines,
I'm not
and the
saying
fact that
she
she's
has
never
to say
offered
the
any
name,
proof
but isn't it
whatsoever,
fishy
and the
that
fact
she's
her
never
charity doesn't
said the
actually exist on
name?
record, and the fact that she said she was saved from it this year, but was participating in stuff this year, it's like, it's not looking good for Eliza. But even with all these weird lies and contradictions that we're catching her in, you would hope that you could at least be able to say that, okay, just because she possibly invented this lie about her being a victim of human trafficking doesn't mean she doesn't actually care about the issue. Maybe she's just that virtuous. So she's willing to put herself and her own credibility on the line to at least temporarily, like, give a voice to this issue, right? Like, giving her a lot, but let's try to get there in our minds. I don't know, because there's really disgusting clips of her going around where she's actually making excuses for children.
You've
consenting
made excuses for
to
schools
engaging with
covering up
adults.
teachers
So
molesting
let's
students,
pretend like we
Blaire.
all have our,
That's
like,
not what this clip
utopia.
is.
So
Blaire is
if I
lying
could
about what
answer
this
this in
clip is.
utopia, right?
It's
Am
not
I,
what this
like,
clip is. They know that's not what this
perfect
clip
in
is. Blaire is
utopia?
blatantly fucking
Each
lying
community-
about what this clip is.
Each community and each so it'd be each
This
caregiver.
is a libertarian thought
parents, and
experiment of what
community,
to do when
including
there's no
teachers,
government.
potential faith leaders,
Ancapistan
and
means
neighbors
no
will
government.
decide if the child is ready to consent and look at the child's behavior. Do they have a job? How
Blaire
their
White is a
education going?
raging
Are they
fucking moron.
Are they cognitively
Proven.
available to have sex with this individual? And then also look at the history of the individual as well. So does this individual have a history of abuse? And then you go from there. And do I feel that some minors are more equipped to engage in sexual activity with adults than others? Yes. The community and the child.
That's actually true.
If the child so desires to have intercourse with an adult, the parents, caregivers, and anyone that's, I mean, it's just what I just said. That would be up to
Her
if the
solution
child
might
has
not
the
be the
desire,
best
and if the
solution,
community
but this is a
also
libertarian thought
that the
experiment of
person
how
that they're
to
supposed to have
exist
intercourse
when the
with
government
is
doesn't
not
exist.
using
This is an
force,
an
fraud, coercion,
anarcho-capitalist fucking
manipulation.
thought
So just to
experiment.
recap, in
She's about to
Eliza's
completely mischaracterize
self-proclaimed
this.
perfect
Those are not
utopia
anarcho-capitalists.
ANCAP
Sorry.
society.
Do you
in
even
her
know what an
head. So her
ANCAP
perfect
means?
world.
No.
In her perfect world, part of that is children consenting to sex with
No.
adults. If the
No.
people around
That's
that
not what she
child
says, Blaire.
believes
You are a
that they can
Blaire,
consent.
you are a
And this is
fucking
child
retard if you
advocate.
think that's what she says. You probably
Amazing.
don't even
I mean,
know
this
what
is like an animal rights
anarcho-capitalist
advocate
means.
saying, like, You know, in some situations, it's okay for a dog owner to abuse their dog if like everyone in the household agrees it's okay. Like that's literally
How
what
much do you
said,
want to bet that
you
Blaire had
crazy.
sex before
She
she
tried
was
to
18?
defend the reprehensible
How much do
clips,
you want to bet?
stating, "I went on the show to advocate
Millions
for
of people
survivors
have
and
sex before
minors."
they're
Amazing
18.
advocate work there, girl. "I was speaking in the clip about a hypothetical anarchist society with no government and no laws, and I stated that clearly. I believe in the current laws around these issues and abide by the current laws. I forgive the folks who didn't understand the context of the clips, even those who called me horrible names.
Everyone
We
who
have
actually
nothing else to
understands
discuss,
what
so please don't message
anarcho-capitalism
me
is
privately. I
understands
forgive
this.
you, but we have
Every
nothing
single
more to
person.
discuss. I've seen your heart towards me."
But again, Blaire White, not the brightest crayon in the
I
box,
had to
too
respond.
retarded to
I
understand what
said,
she's
"You
even
said
talking
some
about. And
minors
yeah,
are
I'm using
capable
that
of
word
consenting to
deliberately.
sex with adults. If that's advocating for minors, I'd hate to see what harming them looks like. Furthermore, you specifically said in your
You advocated for
perfect
schools
in-depth
covering up for
society, there
teachers
would be
sexually molesting
circumstances in which
students,
minors
Blaire.
have sex with adults.
Yeah, I do
Meaning
have
this is
receipts on that.
your idea of a utopia, girl. You were completely demented.
That's
and
not
your
what she meant
grift
by
has
utopia.
expired." And I stand on that.
What she meant
because
by
I'm sorry,
utopia was a land without government.
even if she really is a victim of human trafficking, which at this point I do not believe, based on all the lies she's already been caught in, all the weird like contradictions, she completely disqualifies
I don't believe a
herself
word this
from
woman
speaking on these
says,
issues
to be
when she
honest.
fixes her
I
dumb
don't
mouth
believe her.
to say that minors can consent to
I'm gonna
sex with
say it.
adults. And you are demented.
She's
You are
already lied
crazy,
like
you are
15
psychotic,
times in this
and we
video.
have to get into why you're inventing all these personas throughout your life. Because I don't think you were human trafficked, but I do think something happened to you, baby girl. Something definitely happened to you. But that doesn't excuse you spitting on the graves of people who have actually been human trafficked, spitting in the face of people who are currently experiencing it now, making up your bullshit story, and then allowing yourself to be on camera saying children can consent.
No, that's not
Like,
what it
what
is.
in the
It just
Nambla
means no
talking point?
government.
And the
Private
gaslighting with this
business,
hoe
no
is
government.
unbelievable,
That's
saying
it.
she forgives people who don't understand. No one needs your forgiveness, Eliza. People need the truth about the story that you've concocted.
No, they don't,
Eliza
Blaire.
is the daughter
No,
of
they
an
don't.
Illinois politician
So
named
what?
Richard Morthland. Now, I don't know why she denies being this man's
She's
daughter. It
never
doesn't make any
denied
sense
being
to
his
me, but
daughter.
actually, now that I'm thinking
Show
about it in my head,
her
it
denying
actually does
that,
make
that
sense.
she's his
That
daughter,
black scent, first
Blaire.
of all. You're the
Show the
privileged
denial.
daughter of a
She's making
politician
that
in
up too.
Illinois,
That never
lieutenant governor,
happened.
okay? That black scent's got to go.
We're
I'm glad he
watching what
dropped
Blair's
it,
doing right
but
now.
it should have never been there in the
This
first
isn't
place.
live. This is
So you're not
pre-recorded.
some
Blaire can't do
urban-
things live. She's not smart enough.
And then secondly, the daughter of a politician being human trafficked would have been headline news, but it wasn't, because you weren't, in my opinion. Now, Elon Musk has unfollowed
Maybe some
Eliza
people
Blue. I'm
don't
sure he
want that
caught
in the
on to her
news,
grift
Blaire.
as well.
Unlike you, not
After
everyone's
all,
a raging
all
fame
this has been
whore.
public information. I'm not bringing anything new to light. I'm just amplifying what's already out there. And it does make Twitter 2.0 under Elon look just as bad as the old Twitter where people were getting
My
banned for
God,
unjust reasons.
this
I mean,
woman
seeing
is
people get banned
awful.
for publicly posting screenshots of YouTube videos that are currently up is like, that's pretty disgusting. My take on Eliza is that she's a very deeply damaged person. Anyone that has had like 5, 6 personas throughout the years that are all completely different, that develops a new way of speaking to target different people, and that is bizarre behavior. Okay. But all those invented personas, whatever.
Blaire doesn't have opinions of her own. She
standing
says
on the
whatever other
backs
people
of
write her
real
and give her to
victims,
say.
leveraging
So
those
no, I
real
don't think she actually
victim
cares about
stories,
any of this.
popping
She
up
just certainly
your,
didn't
in my
write any of
opinion,
this.
fake story
She doesn't understand what
for
any of this
clout, for
means.
power, for fame,
This
then
is all
abusing
feigned
TOS
outrage.
on
This is
social
not
media
real.
to censor people who call out your lies is disgusting. Because what's so crazy is that she could have been a human trafficking survivor
A
advocate
world without government is what
without
the
actually being
utopia
human
is.
trafficked. You didn't
A
have to make up that
world
lie.
without
I know
government.
it probably gave you more clout, it
That's
gave you
what
more
that
credibility
means.
in your mind or whatever, but I would have loved to see someone become an influencer just on the basis of that issue without having to invent lies to do it. You didn't have to be an alleged victim to make that your issue. I fight for many
Exactly.
issues on my channel, on my social media.
And
that
you
I
don't believe
claim
any
to
of
have
them,
been a victim of
Blaire.
myself.
You
I
believe
mean, the only way
exactly
I see
0 of
Eliza
them.
getting out of
It's
this
all for
one
clout so
is
you
if
can
she
buy
brings back
clothes.
that black scent and cries racism.
Black
That is
scent.
it for
That's
this video,
fucking
you guys.
racist.
Make sure you
That's
follow me on
it?
Twitter and Instagram. Subscribe to me on this channel
Wow.
as well as my podcast channel, and I'll see you in the next video.
Wow. 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 I have no words for how bad that was. I have no words for how bad that was. All right, let me run through it real quick. Yeah, I mean, exactly, because even when Blaire does pre-recorded videos, there are no substance to the videos because, again, she's not writing any of that. It's all fucking written for her. Listen, guys, if you don't know, I have been in person with Blaire White on like multiple occasions during the walkaway campaign. Here's what happened when there was a debate in Florida. Blaire was given a binder of information that she then memorized and had to repeat in the debate. And there was a debate prep session, and again, which they were practicing memorizing information. Blaire didn't come up with any of the talking points. She simply repeated what was given to her in a binder of information. And Blaire was so nervous to go onto that debate stage to speak live that she door dashed a bottle of vodka to the venue and took shots from it before the debate, because Blaire White cannot speak live. She can't do any of this live. That's why all her shit's pre-recorded. She's not smart enough to do it, but she looks great. You got to give her that. She looks fucking hot, man. She looks great. She's got good makeup, good clothes, and that's all Blaire White cares about. So what you just saw is not outrage over this situation. It's simply jumping on the grift train. That's all it is. Blaire White said Eliza was pretending to be black because she speaks with an accent. Eliza's from Chicago. They have an accent in Chicago. And if you know anyone that lives in one of these places where there's an accent associated with the location, sometimes their accent flares up and sometimes it goes down. Listen, I live an hour away from Boston. So when I go to Boston, and I lived in Boston for years, and I picked up when I lived in Boston, I picked up some of the Boston accent. When I go to Boston and I'm around people that are speaking with a Boston accent, especially if I'm drinking, to be quite honest, I start to actually talk with a Boston accent. The same thing happens to Joshua. Joshua grew up in Boston, and Joshua does actually have a Boston accent, but you don't hear it unless he's around people who are speaking a fucking Boston accent. So, like, this happens. People have accents that they come and they go. I have 100% heard Eliza Blue talk in that accent in private. Like, park the car and Harvard Yard, that sort of thing. I've heard it. My community's heard it. So to say that Eliza Blue is pretending to be black because she talks with an accent sometimes, come on. That's one of the most racist things I have ever heard in my life. And then this fucking clip. Let me just show you guys. I'm going to get this up on the channel real quick. Hang on. This will take like a second. So that clip that Blaire was talking about, in which Eliza, and this is something that's been purported around the internet by Chrissy Mayer, by Chrissy Mayer mostly, and then anyone basically associated with Chrissy Mayer, is that clip where Eliza was on the Liberty Lockdown podcast and she said the community should set the standards for when people can have sex. Okay, I understand why people are misinterpreting that, because the thing is, that is a libertarian thought experiment. When Eliza says our utopia, what she's talking about is Ancapistan. Anarcho-capitalists, which Eliza absolutely is, and again, I've had conversations with her in private about this. Anyone who says that Eliza Blue is not a libertarian and not a anarcho-capitalist has never actually spoken to the woman in their life. Because I have talked to her about this. She absolutely believes that she's an anarcho-capitalist. And what anarcho-capitalists believe is that there should be no government. None. There should be private business, private property, but no government. And so the conversation that they were having was about, how do you set community standards when there is no government to set the standard? When she said utopia, what she meant was Ancapistan, a world without government. And I'm not the only one who said this. And I'm going to show you guys, because the guy who actually runs the podcast that Eliza was on, and I have a clip of this, I just need to find it real quick. The guy who was on the runs the podcast that Eliza was on, that they took that clip from, has actually explained this. So when this whole controversy started, and Blaire White absolutely should know this because Blaire White's friend, Chrissy Mayer, shared this clip. When this whole controversy started and Chrissy Mayer flung this clip all over the internet, that Chrissy brought Clint onto her show. Clint Russell is the guy that runs the Liberty Lockdown podcast. And Clint, on Chrissy Mayer's show, explained exactly what I am just explained to you right now. So you don't even have to take my word for it. Let's listen. Let's listen to Clint. Let's listen to Clint explain to you exactly what I just said.
Okay, so let's pretend like we all have our like utopia. So if I could answer this in utopia, right? In my like perfect and utopia.
Without government.
Each community, and each so it'd be each caregiver, parent, and community, including teachers, potential faith leaders, and neighbors, will decide if the child is ready to consent and look at the child's behavior. Do they have a job? How is their education going? Are they cognitive?
I'm sorry, but this makes it sound like Eliza is like, the whole community can decide whether or not a kid can have sex. Because if he has a little lifeguarding job, well, then he's good to go. It's so icky.
Can I clarify? Because
okay.
I'm not going to run cover for it, but I understand the framing by which she is making this statement. The whole premise to this conversation is there a non-state solution to protect kids? That's like every libertarian thought experiment begins with, can we fix this without government? Because we don't want government, but we also don't want kids to be raped. Like, okay, so that's the reason that she's framing it in this fashion, is like, I think that the government fails at everything it does. So can we come up with a better solution to this? And her solution, whether you like it or not, is a separate question. But her solution was, well, what if we have the parents and the church and the school and blah, blah, blah. Now, the reality is the vast majority of rape comes from the parent, the church, the school.
Yes, all the people she's naming.
Yeah, it's ultimately not a great solution, but I understand the reason that she brought it up. And I think that of all the things she said, I think that's one that I don't actually agree with people, flipping out over. So for what it's worth.
That's the guy who was running the podcast saying, you guys are getting this wrong. Here is what actually was happening. This is the same conversation that occurs at every fucking libertarian event in the history of ever. It is a thought experiment. That is all it is. Now, again, and I agree with Clint on this, I don't necessarily think Eliza's answers are the correct answers. I don't know what the correct answers are. We are so far away from Incapistan utopia, it's not even funny. But what Clint just told you guys is absolutely correct. And guess what? This clip happened last week. And guess what? Blaire White absolutely had access to this should she or the person writing her scripts for her had wanted it. And Blaire chose to ignore it because all Blaire White is doing is shilling outrage porn that she's several days late for, but she's probably cashing in that sweet check from the PR campaign if Tim Pool is right about this. She's talking about it because she was influenced to talk about it. I don't think Tim's correct about this, but like the fact that Blaire White actually did this video today kind of makes me reconsider that. Why does Blaire White even care? There was zero new information presented in that video at all. Just like I said, no receipts, no new information, just conjecture, lies, twisting things out of context. If you had any doubt if Blaire White was a grifter, we just got our answer today. And again, I'm going to repeat it because I had people watching that have joined since it started. The reason that I know that Blaire White doesn't actually care about this shit is when I, along with the Libertarian Party of New Hampshire, went to protest a school board meeting in the end of 2021 because the school was covering up for teachers sexually molesting students. And this was well documented in local media. There's no question that this happened. It absolutely did. In fact, when we went to protest this school board meeting, the superintendent ended up resigning. He resigned. We won. We got what we wanted. But an interesting thing happened. So me, along with other members of the LPNH, when we protested the school board meeting, the school board sent us a no trespass order basically telling us we couldn't come back, which was perfectly fine with me. I actually still have my no trespass order. I'm going to get it framed someday because we had, like I said, we won. There was no reason for me to go back. But like when and I frankly bragged about this, I'm very proud of that no trespass order. Very proud. And when I started talking about this, Blaire White was one of several people who came after me and shamed me for protesting a school board meeting when the school was covering up for teachers sexually molesting students. Why on earth is Blaire White taking the side of a school who is covering up when teachers are sexually molesting students if she really cares about this shit. The answer is she doesn't care about it. She doesn't care about it at all. The reason she talks about it is because it makes her money so she can buy clothes and makeup and do pretty things and flounce around and take pictures and be an influencer on the internet, because that's all really Blaire White cares about. Turtle Boy, absolute grifter. Don't believe that asshole. Absolute grifter with not a single bone of integrity in his body. All right, guys, let's take a look at this, though, because here's the thing that I don't think Blaire White actually anticipated, which is that her little kind of nonsense expose just coincided with Shane Cashman publishing the first part of his article here. Now, in that video that Blaire just did, she said, Eliza never talks about this, and Eliza has never given any details, and meh. Well, the problem is, Blaire, that Eliza's interview was released yesterday with Shane Cashman. Now, we're not going to read the whole thing because, quite frankly, Shane Cashman is really wordy. And when as a reader, I actually really appreciate Shane Cashman's writing. I think it's like it's like, I mean, they call him Gonzo journalism because he takes after Hunter S. Thompson, which I actually think is really interesting, if I'm honest. But I just want to scroll down. So here we go. Let's see. Before she and I met in person, our official interaction happened in a group chat between Ye, Eliza, and myself. I had just left Ye's place in LA. He and I spent the weekend discussing, amongst other things, the shape of his campaign for president. One topic he kept coming back to was human trafficking. Eliza's name popped into my head when I was in the airport, so I asked for her permission to send her contact to Ye. She obliged, and then Ye started the group chat. It was the way that Eliza responded to the initial text from Ye that gave me pause to not go full tilt into accusing her of operating solely out of fame. I didn't know her personality at all, nor did I expect the recent accusations, but I think it's worth sharing this, despite it being a private interaction. Yay, Eliza, I got your number from Shane. Let's stop all pornography and sex trafficking, starting with Twitter. Eliza, the actual freedom of all people is the most important fight. No public stunt, by the way, and I'm not going to ask for funding or anything. I do everything on my own with my old-ass iPhone and God. And you can see there, that's what she said. It was discussed on Timcast IRL that I would write it. I don't know why that gives Shane pause about what, like, Eliza being a fame whore, because she's flat out telling Kanye West that she doesn't want a public stunt. Why would she privately tell Kanye West that she doesn't want a public stunt if this was all about chasing fame? That just seems weird to me. I don't understand that. And by the way, oh, Katie Herzog's such a fucking liar. Listen, I've got a whole series of streams on my channel about this. Katie Herzog did an hour-long hit piece podcast on me in which I went on to debunk literally every single component of her podcast with receipts that Katie Herzog had access to. Katie Herzog is a liar. Katie Herzog was sent this information. She ignored it because she told a story that had no basis in reality for the sheer purpose of smearing me. I have all the receipts. I did several Substack articles about them. In fact, the Libertarian Party of New Hampshire, protesting the school board meeting, was one of those things that Katie Herzog tried to paint it like I was a lone crazy person going to this school board meeting. I wasn't a lone crazy person. It was part of a concerted effort with the Libertarian Party of New Hampshire to get the superintendent fired, and we won. And then Katie Herzog wants to make it seem like I was just some lone nutcase, when that wasn't the case. And she knew this. This was all done in public. It wasn't a secret. She just ignored it to smear me. And she did the same thing with Eliza. And by the way, guys, I don't think Eliza Blue is perfect. I think there are components of this situation that Eliza Blue has handled horribly. However, what Blaire White just did to her is far worse than anything that I've seen Eliza Blue do. I'm sorry. When you are purposefully lying about someone on the internet, when you are saying that someone is pretending to be black because they're speaking with an accent, when you're making insinuations that you have no evidence to back up at all, that to me is so much worse than someone getting someone else's Twitter account locked, in which they can get access to their Twitter account if they just delete the fucking tweet. What Blaire White did, like, in that video is just as bad as Chrissy Mayer. Oh, wait, someone asked me earlier my thoughts on Chrissy Mayer. One of the most retarded, moronic women I have ever seen in my life. And I tried really hard to understand the appeal of Chrissy Mayer. I watched several hours of Chrissy Mayer's content. I do not understand why people like this woman. This woman is like high school Mean Girl, except she's like the dumb Mean Girl. Like, you know how in like the high school Mean Girl clique you have, like, there are varying degrees of Mean Girl. You've got the smart Mean Girl, you've got the slutty Mean Girl, and you've got just the ragingly fucking stupid Mean Girl. Chrissy Mayer is the ragingly fucking stupid Mean Girl. That's how I feel about her. Thank you for the super chat. And Red Sings the Blues, donation to the stream. This Eliza Blue is out of control. Can't wait to have you on my podcast. Oh, yeah, I do need to get back to you, Red Sings the Blues. I promise I'll answer your email. Sorry about that. I did get your reply. All right. It was discussed on Timcast IRL that I would write a profile on her. I agreed to it. She shared it publicly, and now those that reject her story are using those posts as retroactive proof that I should not be taken seriously as a journalist, and I understand the concern. Twitter users started reposting tweets of me saying nice things about Eliza from about a month prior to the writings of the article, to the clip of me commending her work and telling her I'm a fan, which was no different than what anyone on most podcasts has done. This is exactly right. Like, do you guys understand that influencers or people on these podcasts, like, they say this to each other all the time. They're like, I love what you're doing. I love what you're doing. They don't usually know what the other person's doing. It's not real. It's not real at all. Yes, if I were to be a mean girl, I would absolutely be the smart mean girl. Yeah, and sometimes I am that mean girl. I mean, Nitwits is a little bit more of a gossipy drama stream if we're honest about it. Yes, Brittany Venti is the low-cut shirt mean girl. Brittany Venti is the slut mean girl. Okay, this is just him talking about reactions on Twitter, blah, blah, blah. What I want to get to, Eliza picked me up in her father's car and said in her father's car. So Eliza doesn't even have a car of her own that works, apparently. Eliza picked me up in her father's car and we drove to the world's largest truck stop, Iowa 80. A 24-hour truck utopia with a restaurant and a bottomless supply of cowboy hats. She seemed oddly positive. She wore a heavy black Tesla winter coat. Really, I thought, of all the coats this woman could wear, of all days, she chose a Tesla coat. It was 7 degrees, and she said it was her one and only warm coat. I later asked how she got it. All of my Tesla gear was given to me by a friend. He worked for Tesla. We have known each other for 2 years before all this happened. The old winter coat was finished. I pulled out the Tesla coat this year because it's what I have. She was looking at her phone, reading an email. The Babylon Bee had notified her that they had canceled an event they had planned to do together. It's heartbreaking, she said. I needed my Christian brothers. I'm so pissed that they would cancel. I mean, I think it says a lot about the Babylon Bee that they're canceling people based on bullshit internet drama. And it's one of those things, it's like, do you really care about the issues? Do you actually care about the issues that you claim to care about? Or do you just care about doing events with influencers? Is that really all it is? The Babylon Bee has shown me in this that they only care about doing events with influencers. They don't actually care about the issues they can't claim to care about. Why is that important? Because so many people on the conservative right, and quite frankly on the left too, I don't actually think this is an issue that's exclusive to the right, but I'm talking about the right now because they should damn well fucking know better. So many people on the conservative right follow influencers and take guidance from influencers that don't give a flying fuck about the things they claim to care about. Most influencers on the right are just riding the grift train. That's all it is. This is part of the reason I left. This is part of the reason I walked away from the right in early 2021. And yes, this is documented. You can find it on my Substack. Early 2021. Right after Joe Biden left office and right after I really started becoming aware of how much bullshit the right was slinging to make money off of their audiences that they didn't really believe, I started noticing it when I was campaigning for an anti-CRT bill in New Hampshire, and the Republicans didn't even care about the anti-CRT bill. In fact, the Republicans destroyed the anti-CRT bill and watered it down to make it completely ineffective. And when I realized what was going on, I left and became a libertarian. Because for all their faults, and there are many, the libertarians actually do care about the issues they claim to care about. And so if I'm going to fight for something, I would pick the smaller group of people that actually care than the larger group of grifter shills that are just in it for themselves to make money. And so I left a long, long time ago, and I have no problem saying this to the right because you guys need to hear it. Your influencers are almost all horrible. None of them care what they claim to care about. And so I don't know why people continue to no, I do know why. People on the right will pay you money hand over fist if you just tell them the things they want to hear, and that's it. That's all they want, a lot of them. Maybe not everyone, and probably not anyone in this chat. I'm sure you guys are all fine. But most people on the right literally just want to hear people say their talking points. That's it. And if you say their talking points and you do it over and over and over again, and you never deviate from the approved talking points, you will make so much money. It is unbelievable. But I really wish people would wake up and realize that they're spending money on controlled opposition that is never actually going to fight for them and never actually care about the issues that they claim to care about. They do not care. They are not coming to save you. It is all feigned outrage. What we just saw with Blaire White's video is feigned outrage. It's not real. And I really wish people would see this, and I'm disappointed in the Babylon Bee. And again, I don't think that Eliza Blue has behaved perfectly in this situation. But her not behaving perfectly does not excuse the behaviors of other organizations. It's not an excuse for it. If the Babylon Bee actually cared about this stuff, they would have still had the event and they would have gone, fuck cancel culture. We don't care. We're doing what we want. She had a slightly darker tone in her voice since the last time we talked. Well, I guess I'm the guy that talks to people the rest of society rejects. In a sense, that's you right now on Twitter. There was mostly small talk on the way to get food. We discussed her childhood being homeschooled and how she and her family, including her younger sister, had moved from the Quad Cities to Denver and back. And this is the other thing. Blaire said that Eliza denied her father. I have yet to see one single receipt of Eliza denying her father. Can anyone provide me with that receipt? Can any one single person provide that? Because just because you don't talk about your father and what he does doesn't mean you're denying he's your father. I've never talked about my father. Well, not really. Every once in a while. My father designs gravestones. And he designs monuments too, like big monuments. Some of you have seen the monuments that my father's designed. My father's monuments have been on fucking TV. But I don't talk about it. Why? Because it's not fucking relevant. Who cares? If people really have questions about my father, they can go and ask him. And I would feel the same way about Eliza Blue's father. I have not seen one interview, not one tweet where she said, this politician is not my father. Okay, show me the receipt, because a lot of people have told me this and not a single person. Link it right now in the chat. Tell me the date, because I keep hearing this from people. She tweeted it. And then when I ask for the receipt of her tweeting it, I get a tweet that has nothing to do with what people said it did. I have not seen one single receipt on this. And Blaire White should have damn well shown it in the video if she wants to make that accusation, because that's what actually being a real journalist looks like. But Blaire White is not a journalist. She's not an investigator. She's a grifter shill influencer that wants to buy clothes and makeup, and that is it. Chrissy Mayer's not funny. I'm sorry. Like, I can find redeeming qualities in almost anyone. That woman's not funny. At all. So you have no receipts. You're just making accusations that you can't back up. Got it. Thank you. That's exactly what I'm talking about. Are you reading Twitter, I asked, referring to the barrage of comments about her life. All the images. Everyone who'd done anything with her had been getting tagged and everything too. Friends are telling me that my silence is making everything worse, she said. Right now, people don't want to hear anything from me. There's literally nothing I can say. What could I say? Nothing I do will appease everybody. I can't be too mean. I can't be too nice. So many people have made their minds up. Eliza's absolutely right about that. 100%. That's true, I said, wondering how the fuck I was going to navigate this story. I was hesitant to even ask her about all this. I would either be exposing her total lie or perhaps I would be making her relive some deeply troubling trauma. The waitress brought us our waters and our meals, and I said, I guess we better start with the questions. I asked her how she defined human trafficking. So Blaire White in the video that we just watched said, you know, Eliza Blue. Oh, I'm sorry. We have to do influencer. Because you can't, I know you guys can't see it with the overlays of my name, but you know, you can't be a good influencer unless you show off your tits. Blaire White said, well, you know, Eliza doesn't even know how to define trafficking. She doesn't. Have you ever heard Eliza define trafficking? Because I've never heard it. I have heard it. Here it is, right here in this article that came out yesterday, a day before Blaire put a video on the internet saying, Eliza doesn't even know the definition of trafficking. Force, fraud, or coercion for the sale of labor or of sex. Anyone under the age of 18 engaging in any commercial activity for goods or services or money is a victim of human trafficking. She rattled it off quickly. Under 18, she says, is automatically a victim of human trafficking if you're engaging in commercial sex. There's not a question, no gray area. Now, one of the things that I do actually think that Eliza Blue is guilty of is she gets really flustered in interviews sometimes. She's got to get better at this, man. And I understand I've gotten flustered in interviews. I think everyone has gotten flustered in interviews at some point that's done this. But Eliza, has particular moments where she does not come across clearly in interviews. And I just think it's nerves. Or some people, even if they want to be famous, because I know what people are going to say, she wants to be famous. Okay, fine. But people who want to be famous still sometimes get stage fright. Okay? And so I do absolutely think that she is guilty of not always speaking clearly in interviews. And we have George saying, I have heard Eliza define trafficking and you are here. Isn't that convenient? Isn't that convenient that the shows in which Eliza Blue is speaking clearly and clearly defining things, those aren't shown to you on the internet at all. No one's making clips of you are here. Yes, send me that screenshot. I want receipts that says he is not my father. But isn't it interesting that they never make clips where Eliza Blue is clearly defining trafficking? They only make clips where she's flustered and fucks it up. So is she guilty of sometimes not speaking clearly? Yeah, she is. That doesn't mean she doesn't know the definition of trafficking, as we just saw. Blaire White, wrong again. How did the trafficking start with you? So this is where Blaire says she's never given any details about her trafficking. And again, this article was out yesterday. That video that Blaire just premiered over 24 hours later, 30 hours later, Blaire White had access to this information. Blaire White could have used this information in her video. Blaire White purposefully, it wouldn't have even been a hard thing to recut. That video was not sophisticated. It was not advanced. If Blaire White had wanted to include this information in her video to be fair and balanced, dare I say, then she had every opportunity to do it. She didn't include the information because she's a grifter shill who does not care what the truth is, and she just wanted to put a negative video on the internet to jump on the grift train. How did the trafficking start with you? I met him when I was about 15, she said. Where? A concert out here. Who was he? A photographer. Can you name him? I can't. Why? Legal reasons. We're going to come back to that. I knew she wasn't going to name names. She said as much to me on Timcast IRL, and I had insisted multiple times that naming names would be one of the best ways to clear her own name. It would allow me and other journalists to do more digging into the story. The lack of a name, the lack of transparency doesn't help, but if she says there are legal reasons, that, for now, is the best I can get out of her. I don't necessarily disagree that it would absolutely be more convenient for Eliza if she would just name the fucking name and get on with it. That's a little fishy to me. Except D, she has in multiple locations, including in the article that we are reading right now. So you are wrong. Congratulations. Try again. It's amazing just how little people on the internet actually listen and actually read. It's as though they don't care about the truth. Why did you leave for LA? I asked. Once I had my permit, I was out of here, she said. Which is funny because now all I want to do is stay here. Was this a relationship with the older guy? He groomed me. Grooming how? Finding out my vulnerabilities. What would make me leave my family and come out to LA? He knew exactly what to say. I was probably the easiest mark they ever had. Was he talking sexually with you as well? No, it was all about the dream world, the opportunities, which were promises of a modeling career, rock star stuff. She was 15 years old. 15-year-old emo girl? That's what they want to hear. I'm sorry. And how old were you? 15 when I met him, 17 when I moved to LA, she said. He knows your age at that point, like from the beginning? Yes. How did he pull that shit? I asked. I would never let it happen, I said, thinking of my children. Were your parents under some type of spell from this person? It sounds like they had no reason to believe this wasn't going to be a legit opportunity for their daughter. Her mother would later tell me that at that time, Eliza would be turning 18 soon as well, and there would be no stopping her. How did you get to LA? My dad moved me out there. She could probably tell, but I was watching for any body language and eye movement that would seem like she's conjuring up a fiction. I had made a plan to ask her the same questions repeatedly over the next few days to see if any of her details didn't match, not only from what she told me, but what she said in other platforms. Eliza said she moved to LA when she was 17. Her parents set her up with an apartment, and within 2 days, she says she was trafficked. This is where I guess I get some of the story messed up, I said. Is there a switch in the guy at this moment? The photographer introduces me to a musician, she said. I again asked for names, but she refused. We get into the specific discussions later, but I wanted to establish her side of what happened in LA first. Are the photographer and the musician together? Like physically, she asked. I mean, like, are they a team? Do you think I know that? She said with some hostility. I don't know. That's why I'm asking. How soon after moving to LA is this happening? Immediately, within a few days, like 48 hours. She said she recognized the musician the moment she met him. I suppose I made a surprised face. This is West Hollywood we're talking about, she said. I had just been to Hollywood, and it seemed the kind of city where dreams and nightmares coexist so tightly it's kind of hard to distinguish one from the other. I agree with him on that. I went over to the musician's place. I don't remember if he came and picked me up, but I'm sure he probably did. Boom. Truer words have never been spoken. Two-faced cunt describes that woman perfectly, and Chrissy Mayer, and so many other people in this situation. Every single one of these lying bitches. They're high school mean girls with credit cards, guys. That's all they are. High school mean girls with credit cards and webcams, and that's it. We went over there hanging out and had some beer, and that's when everything went downhill. He handed me something to smoke, and I smoked it. I think they called it ice or glass. I think it was something like crystal meth. Do you remember what you were thinking in that moment? My dreams were coming true. Hang on, guys. Just give me 1 second. I want to check my Twitter DMs for that alleged proof that Eliza Blue denounced her father. Oh, I already know what this is. I already know what this is. This is wrong. This is not proof. This is not proof, Zacko Crazy. Not proof. And I'm going to explain why. I'm going to show you guys. Someone tried to pull this with me, and I said the same thing to them. Eliza said Okay, this woman said this woman's father is a MAGA candidate for Illinois Governor Richard Worthland. The constant positive stroking of Putin's side is idiotic. Eliza said, no one in my family is running for governor. No one in my family or extended family has run for governor. My pronouns are they, them. So you violated Twitter's terms of service with that tweet. I mean, she was being kind of a cunt at that point. Again, I don't think Eliza Blue is perfect, but she's absolutely correct. No one in her family ran for governor. Eliza's father ran for lieutenant governor. That is a completely different position. And so it might seem like she's denying it, but what she's really doing is being a little bit of a fucking troll, and I know because I've done this too, while actually stating something factually correct. Eliza's father did not run for governor. Eliza's father ran for lieutenant governor. So that's not proof of what you say it is. This is like when I tweeted, that's why Hitler went to heaven. And everyone's like, oh my God, she's an anti-Semite that loves the Holocaust. And that's not what it was at all. What I was saying was, there's no hell. There's no hell. Hell does not exist. Therefore, Hitler can't go to hell. If there's no hell, Hitler can't go there. It's a troll. It's to piss you guys off. Is this you or no? Either way, I would do constant stroking of Putin. No, that's not me. I think you might have me confused with someone else. Yeah, I don't know what else to say. This person is saying her father ran for governor. Then she's saying, no, my father didn't run for governor, which is factually true. She didn't deny her father, guys. I'm sorry. That's not proof of what you say it is. And this is why you need to fucking read everything. This is why you need to read everything. If you're a counselor, then you really fucking suck at your job if you can't, like, look at simple information that is presented right in front of you and draw the conclusion that what is being presented in front of you actually exists. Because that's what you're doing right now. You are literally looking at an article that we have up, hang on, right now, in which Eliza Blue does define trafficking. And you are responding to someone who has told you that he has heard Eliza Blue use that same definition before. And you're saying, I'm a counselor. You're not a very good one if you can't assess information right in front of you. My patience for this situation has run out. There are so many lying people on the internet that are trying to present things that are not true at all in any way. Like, I don't know why you guys can't stop. I really just don't know. Why is it so important for you? And I'm obviously not speaking to everyone right now, but I feel like I'm speaking to at least some people that are watching this, probably hate watching it. Like, why do you guys lie? It makes no sense to me at all. Anyway, let's continue. Oh, I'm sorry, D. That's going to be an insult, which is breaking rule number 1 of my chat, which is don't be a dick, and now you're getting blocked. Goodbye. Go be an awful counselor somewhere else. Oh, my word. I was over at the musician's place. I don't remember. Oh, this is where she talks about smoking crystal meth. Do you remember what you were thinking in that moment? My dreams were coming true. She was 17. Did you not feel any sense of dread being away from your family, being with these people? I was in a dream world, she said. Up until that point, I didn't even know that evil was a thing that happened. You didn't learn about evil from church? I asked. I understood that her father went to seminary school in Denver and that religion was particularly important in their family. I did not understand what evil was until LA, she said. Was that your first relationship? No. Was he violent? He wasn't violent, but I'm kind of grateful that I was drinking and on drugs. At the time, I was really thin because I was modeling, so I didn't have any meat on my bones. A little alcohol really messed me up. And one day, he basically told me, I'm going to sell you for drugs. I was in the room when he brokered the deal. He called the guy. I did not know if it was all planned out in advance or whatever. I don't know. I'm assuming this is a thing they did. And you consider this a relationship. I mean, this is a really great point, Boom. Not being able to match up dates does not mean someone is lying. I'm going to tell you what, Eliza and I are the same age. I'm 41. I think she's the same age as me, maybe like give or take a couple of years. I can't remember shit that happened when I was a teenager. I really can't. And I don't think you understand this if like you're in your 20s and your teenage years are still fresh. I do not remember most of my childhood. I don't remember most of what it was like to be a teenager. There's a lot of stuff in my 20s. I don't even remember it anymore. It was so long ago. It feels like it was a different life. It doesn't feel real to me to look back at the person I was as a teenager and in my 20s. I would not be able to remember the dates either. And I don't think you really understand that until you get older and you're like, where the hell did my life go and what the hell happened? That's the struggle is real, and anyone who's older understands this. And traumatic events will alter or fuck up your memory hard. And do you consider this a relationship? Well, she was 17, so probably stupidly did. I probably would have thought that, but I wasn't used to having male relationships, not like that. Did sex with him come into place before all this? It was clear there was no choice, she said. The thing is, I hadn't come from that. That wasn't part of my lifestyle. When he called the buyer, were you thinking anything like, what the fuck is this phone call? She was 17. Again, 17-year-olds don't think like this. No, I was just told we needed more drugs, so we're going to sell you. And I was like, holy shit, I'm a child prostitute? I was embarrassed. I knew immediately I would never tell anyone about this. The musician dropped her off at her house in West Hollywood Hills. Can you describe this man, the buyer? Old, fat, ugly guy. I could probably recreate pieces of his room. It's weird what your brain remembers. His bed was red, but not blood red. It was a red blanket. It was a really nice place, and there were multiple people living there. Sorry, guys, I'm getting congested. I still have a cold. Or COVID, or whatever the fuck this is. That's been around for 2 weeks. Were they there for you? Not for me. They came and went. Lots of drugs and alcohol. How long were you there? I can't say. Maybe days, a week. Were you on drugs? Yes, thank God. It was not a pleasant experience, she said. It was scary. I don't know what particularly happened, but I think I started to kick a little bit. I think I became a problem. I wasn't eating, I wasn't drinking, and I believe I had an overdose. And that saved my life. This happens with victims. I was left for dead, but I survived. I thought it was my fault. I woke up in Cedars-Sinai. I really hope that they get the hospital records, because that would be something that is a tangible proof that she was in the hospital for this during that time period. No friends out there. And if they can't find the hospital records, I want to know why. No friends out there. The nurse treating me told me she treated Kurt Cobain once and that he and I have the same eyes. He died a few years earlier. That moment eventually would keep me sober. Maybe she was just gassing me up to make me feel better, but it gave me confidence. How did you get back home? My parents bought a plane ticket. Somehow they knew. She doesn't know anything else about it. When my dad dropped me off in LA, I think I had blonde hair, and when I arrived back here, I had jet black hair. Everything I brought home was in a trash bag. My parents didn't recognize me. Oh, they destroyed their records after 7 years, bot? That sucks. Let me see. The people that really hate you are demanding the details, I said, as a way to say I'm sorry for asking. But I didn't know how else to cover the story. One might work with the primary source first and then unspool what you can from there. I can't reverse engineer it. It's like gore porn, Eliza said, referring to the gruesome details that many are saying they need to hear from her to believe any trafficking took place. They're hitting me up, wanting to know if my vagina is ripped. A part of me hopes you're lying, because I want none of this to be true. She went back to recalling what she could of the overdose. Everybody's got stuff that happened to them, she said. I was lying in bed last night thinking about all of this. I'm just so grateful I'm still alive. So, like, it is bad, yes. But, like, bro, think about how much of your life I've had since. I'm so grateful that despite all this stuff, I did so much dope shit. And I'm going to tell you, and for people who don't know, Eliza Blue came and spoke privately to my locals community over a year ago. There was no recording because it was a private Zoom call. So I fundamentally have never bought that she's just in it for the fame, because if you're just in it for fame, you don't take the time to speak to 50 people that happen to attend a private Zoom call. I have way more people in my locals than that, but that was about how many were on the call that day, to talk to them. You don't do that, because if you're all about fame, you're going to want the biggest room, not these smaller, intimate settings. And Eliza said exactly the same thing in that Zoom call. And there are people here that were probably in that Zoom call that remember. She talked about being grateful. She talked about, like, you know, like looking at this side of things, looking from this perspective, and like all the things she's been able to do. So I've heard this before. I think she felt like she had to say something positive because my face was probably as grim as the scientists standing with their doomsday clock. So do you remember anything leading up to or after the overdose, I asked. I guess it started at the buyer's house, and then they dropped me in the musician's hallway. I'm surprised they even called anyone. They were probably like, we aren't going to deal with a dead girl. A lot of people who've been looking into your past are asking themselves, how could this happen to the daughter of a politician? It looks like she had a nice family. That's the most disgusting insult, she said. You can be a survivor and be other things. You can have a family. A lot of survivors I know are married, have kids. It's not like you're a survivor and that's all you are. I could be fully in trauma, probably on disability, just rotting away, still off the LA experience. That's why I'm like, at this point, I don't care what people say. Listen to what I survived. That's crazy. She mentioned how anyone from any status with any type of family can fall victim to trafficking. Later, she tells me she thinks the buyer dyed her hair black to make her look like a boy. I think that's what they were into, she said. She said that she believes they were transgender kids in the house as well in the Hollywood Hills. Were you sold multiple times, I asked. My first trafficking experience was short, she said, just that one time. What was it like when you got home, I asked. I forgot how to write. I had to learn how to write again. English was another language. I was so fucked up, I didn't know how to order food at a restaurant. I was so fucked up that I stayed sober for 8.5 years just because I was terrified. I was so fucked up that I never told anyone and promised myself I would never tell anyone because I was so traumatized. I was so fucked up that I've been trying to remember how I got to the airport. I don't remember if the trafficker drove me, if a police officer drove me, or if I drove my own car. I can't believe I'm alive after all that. The drug overdose didn't kill me. The traffickers didn't kill me. The sex abuse didn't kill me. There was also that time that when HIV was still making the rounds pretty heavily. But during that time, it would have been a big concern. The fact that I survived and didn't come out with HIV, I cannot believe it. Let me explain something. When traumatic shit happens to you, oftentimes your mind will block out the incident to make it very difficult for you to remember what happened. I can't remember when I was raped. I know it happened. There were times when I could remember it more. But now, I know who the person was. I can see his face. I know where it happened. But there's so many, like, details around that I just don't remember. I don't remember. And there'll probably be nothing that'll ever bring it back. And I wouldn't be able to explain it. How did it end up? I don't know how the situation got started. I don't know how he ended up in my house that night. I don't know. I know I drove him there. I know we had been out. I know we had been at his house for a while, but it's just like the details of that whole night, of that whole experience, I don't remember it. And so if she can't remember it, or it's hazy or fuzzy, or she only remembers things here and there, that's just the way it goes. Maybe she's lying. Maybe. I don't know. But it would not surprise me if she just can't remember. And especially, this is a long time ago. And after you flew home, you were sort of comatose. I had no strength. Not just physical strength. I had no mental strength. Hearing this story made me sick. I stopped eating. This was all her account. She could be totally lying. It could all be true. Either way, the story makes me feel sick. If it's a lie, I'm sick that someone would go this far to tell such a warped lie. And I'm sick if it's true. I'm just asking her to relive some dark trauma. It's important for me to hear your side of the story, I said. I know you've said it on some podcasts, but I need to hear it in person, not in a studio, not with cameras on, not with lights and makeup. When I'm talking to other survivors, we laugh a lot, we joke. Not about the abuse, but we have a dark humor. Not all the time, but like among survivors, we weave in and out of intense conversations all the time. I can absolutely co-sign that. I know many people who have been sexually assaulted that have very dark sense of humors about this entire thing. I'm probably included in that group. I think it's a coping mechanism that you have the dark sense of humor. There it is. It reminded me of my own friends and family in AA whose sobriety anniversaries I've attended and the way speakers can go from being stunned by their own depravity to laughing at their own depravity. So you come back to the Quad Cities after LA. I detoxed there. I was a mess, she said. I honestly don't remember going to the airport. I don't know. Her parents pick her up from the same airport Eliza picked me up from. She said she spent more than a week in bed as her mother tended to her. She said she wasn't talking and hardly eating. So a lot of people asked me when I was raped, why didn't I just skip down to the CVS to get a plan B? Or why didn't I just go to report it to the police? I didn't get out of bed for days. So when she's saying she didn't get out of bed for a week, same thing happened to me. And this is what a lot of people don't understand. And they expect rape victims to just get up the next day and run to the police and get a rape kit. I couldn't get out of bed for days after it happened. You don't just get up and skip down to the police station, mostly because you don't think anyone's going to believe you anyway. I didn't tell anyone for months. It took me 3 months to tell someone. There ain't no rape kit after 3 months. So I believe that. Did you stay with her a while after that? When I got better, I just wanted to go back to LA. Again, I'm thinking as a father here, it's hard for me to understand how I wouldn't do whatever I could to prevent my daughter from going back to a place that appeared to destroy her. I'd arranged to speak with her parents tomorrow, and I thought I'd asked about how they dealt with that. Whether or not you, reader, are believing Eliza, perhaps she put herself in a very bad situation. Well, yeah, I'd say that that's probably true. Perhaps you don't believe she was trafficked and sold for sex and drugs, but even if the overdose is the only thing that's real, her parents would have seen a destroyed version of their young daughter. And I had a hard time putting myself in their shoes without putting up a fight to prevent her return to LA. But my kids are still young, and I know I put my parents through hell when I was 17, 18, 19. Nothing would have stopped me then, too, despite all the nightmares waiting for me. Not all parents care about their kids, guys. That is the sad reality. Not all parents care about their kids. Not all parents, care about preventing this sort of thing. There are a lot of parents that are overtly emotionally abusive to their own kids. So there are a lot of reasons why they might let her go back. I share my concern about how and why she would return to LA. I'm sitting here like, this is literally so textbook, she said. What you're witnessing is full of textbook abuse. After the first trafficking, I came home, and when I went back to LA, I called him. He would not talk to me. The musician, I asked. Yes, he wouldn't talk to me. He just told me to go to AA. Why would you go back to him? I don't know. That's crazy. I didn't want to miss the opportunity. What was the opportunity? Being a rock star. Studio Owl, you are going to get blocked if you shill this shit in my chat. I'm putting you in a timeout right now. If you continue it, I'm going to block you and you will never participate in the chat again. I know you're a regular on my channel, but I'm not looking at that shit. I'm not looking at you blaming a 17-year-old girl. That's why I came out here. I wanted to be a model. So you won't name names. Can you say it's a famous person, I asked. There are people involved in my story that are very high profile. Maybe they aren't a household name, but I think that if and when it all comes out, people will be like, oh, wow. You go back to him and see him after the phone call, I asked. I didn't see him physically. I just called him. Did you go to AA? I went to AA in Chinatown. I believe it was on a Monday. The meeting itself was called Chinatown. It was in West Hollywood. And what were you thinking about yourself at the time? I thought I had been a child prostitute. Is that what you considered yourself? Until I was in my 30s, I didn't even know about trafficking. This wasn't my language at all. My first advocate is the one who told me she believed I had been trafficked once I told her my story. I had no language. I thought I was the one committing crimes. When she says committing crimes, plural, I believe she's also referencing her second trafficking experience, which we discuss later in this series. So I'm going to tell you this. Women who are abused in relationships are much more likely to end up in future abusive relationships. There's research about this. You can look it up. I cannot remember the name of the woman who did it. Joshua will know. I'll ask Joshua later because he's the one that I've talked about this with extensively, actually. But there is a very high correlation between being in one abusive relationship and being in future abusive relationships. Why might that be? Because when you're in an abusive relationship, and especially when you're in an abusive relationship for an extended period of time, you get used to it. It sounds really fucked up, but it becomes your comfort zone. If you are in an abusive relationship every day for years, as it sounds like she was with this musician, if she's telling the truth, that becomes your comfort zone. You get used to it. Your body gets used to it. Your mind gets used to it. And I'm sure like people who've been in abusive relationships can co-sign this. It becomes your normal, for lack of a better term, when it extends for a long period of time. Then all of a sudden, you get out of the abusive relationship and you're free and you can date any person you want. You probably should go to therapy first. Most people don't, which is why they make mistakes. Brian says it's the same for gay men too. I suspect it is. But people who've been in abusive relationships are very likely to jump into another relationship with another person that's going to abuse them because that's what they're used to. Because that's what's become their comfort zone. It's not a conscious thing. They're not looking around and saying, ooh, I'm going to find another man that's going to abuse me. That's not what happens. It's a subconscious thing. The vast majority of decisions that we make are made on a subconscious level based on what we consider normal, based on what is our comfort zone, based on what is something we're used to. And that can be good or that can be bad. But I'm not suggesting it's something they actively seek out. But research says that's exactly what happens. Yeah, Tinge says, I can vouch for that. I went from my first relationship being abusive to my second relationship being similarly abusive, and then later down the line married that second person. Yeah. It's a sad thing. You have to, this is why if you're ever in an abusive relationship, go to therapy. I know a lot of you think that therapy's just gotten too woke. And it is true. There are a lot of woke therapists, but there are also non-woke therapists that can help you. You need to go to therapy. You need to talk. You need to work through your own baggage. Find whatever way you can to work through your own baggage. Don't have shame that the baggage exists. Every single person has baggage, okay? Every single one of us has baggage of some sort. But if you don't work through it and release it and deal with it, you will repeat it over and over and over and over again. It becomes a self-fulfilling prophecy. And you don't want that. There's no reason for it. You've got to take care of yourself. And I know that people experience a lot of shame and they don't want to acknowledge it and they don't want to talk about it. And I'm sure it's very traumatic for people to talk about it. Obviously, this is something that's traumatic for Eliza to talk about, which makes me, by the way, believe her even more. She could have given out the details of all of this a long time ago. There's a reason she didn't. She could have put together a perfectly crafted story that no one would have been able to question, and she didn't do it. Probably because it's really fucking traumatic for her to even think about. So I understand why people don't go to therapy. I really do. Or get a life coach. It's got to be the right life coach, though. I'm a big proponent of life coaching, but it's got to be the right life coach. Just take the first step. Because when you find the right person, it can quite literally change your life for the better. Let's see. When she says committing crimes, plural, okay, I believe she's also referring to her second trafficking experience. At the time, I thought, oh, I'm an addict. I wasn't thinking about the trafficking. I was thinking I just have a drug and alcohol problem. I remember I tried to tell my first AA sponsor what happened with the guy in LA. It was still on my spirit. It was still in my heart. I was very young. Did the man in LA who sold you get in trouble? I asked. I don't know, she said, and I haven't looked. I almost thought about looking right before you came out here, but I can't. What keeps you from looking? I asked. Why go back? Wouldn't you find some sort of solace knowing he was in jail? Or I started to say before she cut me off. I don't think he's alive, she said. But you could be out there preventing others from getting hurt by him if he's still alive, I said. She took a deep breath before responding. I understand. I do. And I think about that myself. There are multiple times I tried and it never went well for me, she said, referring to a second man who she says abused and trafficked her. If you try to warn people about people like this who do bad things, this sounds fucked up, but I promise you it's the truth. It very rarely goes the way you think it's going to. People don't want to believe this stuff. And so oftentimes, if you have someone that's been in an abusive relationship and they try to warn other people about the person that abused them, those other people don't want to hear it, or they think you're crazy, or they don't listen because they don't want to hear it. You cannot tell someone something that they do not want to hear. It's really that simple. I mean, I'll say this, and I'm glad we've taken it down a notch. I've worked with Joshua for years as a life coach. I'm grateful for him every single day. And he has helped me more than almost anyone in my life. So I recommend him. If you're looking for a life coach, I can't recommend him enough. He might not be the right person for everyone. He's the right person for me. And I'm really, I'm really grateful that I found him. So there are a lot of reasons why Eliza may not have wanted to warn people about the people who trafficked her. There's a lot of reasons, most of which are that it probably wouldn't have made any difference. Look, at this point, this is number one. There are laws that aren't going to work in my favor. The LA stuff is way in the past. Sometimes there are provisions where if it's like over 10 years, but like generally speaking, it's all he said, she said. Simply accusing someone with no evidence, it would not end well for me. And when I say no evidence, I mean like no evidence. Like I have no evidence for this first story, right? So it would literally be mostly he said, she said, and no one's going to be like, you know what? Yep, she's right. Eliza's right about that. You know, when most people read this, they don't trust you. They will say she's just making shit up. I said, most of this is going to run off faith in me as a writer, but on you too. I could lie to you right now and say he's so-and-so. I could lie to you right now and say he's dead. I could lie to you right now and say he's in jail. And it would have been more advantageous for me to lie. It would have sounded better if I could lie. But I told the truth. I'm telling the truth. I know what the haters are going to say, and I'm telling you the truth. Liza's absolutely correct. She could have lied. She could have concocted a story. She could have really made sure she had some button. If Eliza had really hired a reputation management firm, You think that they're not going to have some finely crafted story where every detail is buttoned up? I think people not hearing a name means you must be keeping things vague to keep the story straight, I said. The problem is sometimes when you let things fester, you start drinking, doing drugs, getting into abusive relationships, she said. Is that why you haven't been fully open with your story, I asked. There's a multitude of reasons, she said. When I stepped forward publicly, I had already been an advocate for a while, privately. I wasn't intentionally like, oh, I'm going to work in the shadows. It's like, there's a million trillion different ways to be an advocate. I didn't want to be a public advocate. I didn't want to be a public survivor. I can unpack why, like why I don't want to be a public servant. Look at my current life. This is why I don't want to be a public survivor. Believe it or not, I didn't want to be a public survivor. No, she really doesn't. That is a lie, and you should really stop lying on the internet. Her first appearance publicly as a survivor of human trafficking and as an advocate for survivors was through an article written in the Daily Wire, written by Amanda. I don't know how to pronounce Amanda's last name. That is a provable lie, and I'm not going to allow that shit. I'm sorry. Stop spreading lies. Studio Owl seems to be fine right now, though, Sin. She said she reached out to the Daily Wire at the beginning of the COVID lockdowns. She wanted to see if they covered the story the way the lockdowns would affect human trafficking. The lockdown, she predicted, would increase risks for vulnerabilities. I didn't reach out for them to cover me. I didn't want to be public about my story or my advocacy. Eliza claimed that she did not want her name and face included in the article, but according to her, Amanda had fought to include these details as she believed it would give the article more reach. Oh, yeah, I timed him out, and he can settle down now. He's back. Let's see. The two went back and forth about this until Eliza finally agreed to allow them to use her name and images. Amanda previously tweeted this about her decision to ask Eliza to use her name. Eliza came to me during the pandemic with serious worries about her abuse and trafficking. Her concern was always with others. She had so much knowledge about how to address the vital issue otherwise being ignored. I asked her to include her name and photo because I thought it would bring more attention to the issue, and it did. I don't regret asking her to do so. She's one of the fiercest fighters I know. I'm told she's being targeted personally right as she's helping Elon Musk fight child exploitation on Twitter. Strange timing. I want to say this too. You don't just wake up and roll out of bed and have a catalog and library of details about how to fight human trafficking. That's not information that people just naturally know. Look, Amazon Eve and I agree again. It is a sign of the apocalypse. Amazon Eve and I agree again. Watch, Amazon Eve and I are going to end up being like best friends by the end of the year at this rate. God. I got Amazon Eve, you know what? I got to respect that you keep showing up. I really do. Props to you, man. I'm starting to respect Amazon Eve. God, this is like the fucking sign of the apocalypse. I swear. It's like the fucking heavens are going to open at any minute. People are going to start disappearing like left behind. Anyway. Yes, which is far less than 100, isn't it, Ian? So can we stop lying now? If you continue to address this issue, I'm just going to block you, bro. I'm not doing it. I am not doing it. God. So, okay, what I want to say is this. The level of knowledge that Eliza Blue has about human trafficking is immense. And again, I know that because she came and spoke to my community about it in a private, unrecorded call. And it's like the level of detail that she has knowledge about, she has obviously been trained in this. And not like a little bit of training. She has obviously been repeatedly trained in this over an extended period of time. Would any of you, just for shits and giggles, go to training on human fucking trafficking? Spending hours, days, weeks of your life studying this information just because you want to be famous? Guess what? There are a lot easier ways to be famous than to go to private training on human trafficking. It makes no sense that this is the route that she would choose. It really doesn't. There's a reason she chose this, and I don't think it was because it was the easiest way to become famous, because a lot of the work that she was doing, and again, I know this because she told my community this in private, a lot of the work that she was doing wasn't on Twitter. It wasn't public. It was helping people offline in the real world. And I know a thing or two about that, because guess what? When I was advocating for the anti-CRT laws in New Hampshire, and even every now and again when I get involved in like local state stuff, most of what I do is not on the internet. It's driving around to these little meetings that you have to go to speak to people in person. It's not on Twitter. It's not on YouTube. It's not for public consumption. When you're actually doing advocacy work, it's a lot of private and small group conversations offline, in person, or on private calls that are not recorded. And it's like people think that because she wasn't doing this stuff publicly, that's proof that she never did it. No, that's not what it is. Yeah, Reagan was on that Zoom call. Eliza has put in a lot of work as she described in the Zoom call. I remember. Yes, she has. You don't just do that for no flipping reason or because you want to be famous on the internet. I'm sorry. Eliza and Amanda also direct messaged each other about the conversation. These are the screenshots from that conversation. You didn't even want to tell your story. You wanted to help others and get it out as much information as possible. You didn't want to make it about you. I thought your name and face would bring more attention to it, and so I asked to include it. The writer from the Daily Wire is saying that Eliza didn't want to be featured in the story. Boom said was also on the call with Eliza. Sin says she helped individually trafficked women. Yes. As far as this, we can tell from this specific experience, Eliza didn't immediately jump onto the idea of notoriety through advocacy. At least not in the very beginning through this venue. Even still, I asked her about the accusation that everything that she has done has been purely for fame. I've literally told everyone from day one that I wanted to be famous. My parents knew that when I was a little girl. She said she'd already seen levels of fame, I believe referencing her past doing hair and makeup with bands such as My Chemical Romance and covers for Spin magazine, something we'll get into later in the conversation. And again, I've talked about this in other streams I've done on this issue. Just because you want to be famous doesn't make you a bad person. To be quite frank, Blaire White wants to be famous. She wants to be famous. Chrissy Mayer wants to be famous. Tim Pool wants to be famous. The Quartering wants to be famous. A lot of people want to be famous. That doesn't mean that you are going to do anything to be famous. LK was also on the private call that my community did with Eliza Blue. Oh yeah, I was in that call too. She even cried telling her story. She was very emotional. Either she's an Oscar-worthy actress or she's genuine. Also, she was sending notices to Twitter about the trafficking section of that site with the previous administration before Elon. Yes, she was. Wanting to be famous doesn't mean you're a grifter, but all grifters want to be famous. Yeah, that's a really good point, Tinge. I want people to remember this, she told me. If you look through my history, I've never had trouble hanging around famous people. When I became a survivor advocate, I had a fully popping Instagram. Like that was just sitting there. once I got back control of it. I believe she's referencing her relationship with Gerard Way, the singer of My Chemical Romance, as well as how her Instagram was stolen from her years later, well after her relationship with Gerard. A lot of people are seeing you in various videos looking happy or calling your mom to see how proud she is of you being in a music video. Are these things proof that you are only doing it for fame? What do you think about the people are missing about you? Well, number one, I don't think people understand human trafficking, even though you can just Google what it means and then also listen to a bunch of survivor stories and go into the human trafficking hotline or the Polaris Project website. My entire Twitter feed for the last few years has been dedicated to educating people, and clearly no one was reading any of it. That was actually one of the biggest hits in this whole thing. I'm like, oh my gosh, they weren't reading what I'm posting. Yo, I can totally identify with that, man. I can completely 100% identify with that. Because I feel like I've been talking about the woke left constantly for 3 effing years. I have been absorbed in trying to help people understand what is going on with the left, how they're taking over institutions, how they're taking over schools, who they are, what are they doing, what are their languages. I do this all day, every day. I post information on the internet about this all day, every day. And it is so frustrating when people who follow me and have followed me for years don't understand the very basics of what I've been saying almost every single day for years. The 4 primary goals of the woke left are gain as much power as possible, destabilize the system, attack capitalism, usher in their Marxist utopia. I have said that almost every single fucking day for 2 fucking years. And there are still so many people who follow me every day that don't understand that. Or that whiteness means capitalism. Whiteness isn't about your skin color. It means capitalism. It means the bourgeoisie, who owns the power structure, all this stuff. I could go on and on and on. And I'm not saying everyone's like that, because I know there are so many people in my chat that have been listening and that have been learning. And so I have to take those victories. But I completely identify with Eliza here, where you're like, I'm posting the same fucking thing every day. No one is reading. No one is looking at it. People who claim to care about this issue, who claim to want to do something about this, aren't doing the basic minimum to understand the issue at hand. I felt like this the other day when the conservative right is just like talking about the Grammys, the Grammys, the Grammys, the Grammys. And I'm like, you know what? When you're complaining about performance art at the Grammys, the woke left is instituting policy in your kids' school to transition them without your knowledge. And it's going in the policy documents and it's going in the curriculum. And you're not even going to know about it for years because you aren't looking in the right places. And I've literally told you where to look. I've told you how to find it. I have done tutorial after tutorial after tutorial. I'm launching a fucking program to help you do this. And you're still not fucking listening because you're distracted by the fucking Grammys. So I completely identify with her on this one. Again, I'm not trying to shame anyone, because I do know there are a lot of people in my chat that watch me regularly that do understand this, and I so appreciate it. I really do. I just wish more would actually do the things required to solve the problems they claim to care about. She continued, but the other piece that they don't understand is abuse and abusive situations, like, quite frankly, you, Shane, could be my trafficker. Or I could be your trafficker. We're at a truck stop and we could be going anywhere. We could be going somewhere and looking like we're having a lovely conversation. And you and I could leave here and get in a car and no one would be any wiser. If somebody snapped a picture of us right now, they'd be like, oh, they look like friends or in a relationship. Normal. I guess that's a good place to ask about the clip of you on Michael Malice's podcast where you seem to give this definition of trafficking as though it's just catfishing. There is a way to deprogram your kids from school indoctrination. Let's talk about that real quick. Hang on, stand by. Hang on, I'll show you. Because I launched this last year. Just load it real quick. If you go to my website, activelyunwoke.com/on-demand, this is the on-demand training section of the website. I have a program that I launched last year in conjunction with Gabrielle Clark. It's called Affirming Reality, Overcoming the Effects of the Gender Cult. This is an on-demand a 3-hour workshop that is all about how do you deprogram your kids from gender ideology in school. Because Gabrielle Clark has done that. Her daughter got socially transitioned by the school. Gabrielle devised a parenting program to deprogram her daughter, and it worked. And the people who have used this program have had success with it, getting their kids back after what the schools did. This program has been on my website for, I don't know, probably 8 months. It's there for you right now. You can go watch it on demand. So yeah, there is that. You're welcome. No, she said, this case is very nuanced. I should never have brought it up on his program because in retrospect, that's beyond what the general population can comprehend as far as trafficking is concerned. But I can try my best to unpack it right now. My former abuser, the one she would meet later in life, had access to my Instagram account. I did not always have access to it. He had a lot of accounts created in my name. He made dating profiles, anything you could possibly think of, because his goal was to make money. Whenever he thought he could make money and hustle is where he was. So like literally in the beginning of that Malice interview, I had an actual definition of what human trafficking was. I go over the whole thing by the UN's definition. So hang on, you're telling me that at the beginning of that interview with Michael Malice, Eliza gives a definition of human trafficking that's different than the one she gave later? Isn't that funny? Isn't that funny that that's not the thing that's clipped and put on the internet? So she gave a definition on this show that they just decided to take a different clip out of and smear her with it. That's just fucking great. That's just great. Smoony, Carlin is always 6 months ahead of conservatives and they never credit her. Truer words have never been spoken. I was thinking like Smoony and spoken at the same time. Truer words have never been spoken, Smoony. Thank you. So, like, literally, in the beginning of that Malice interview, I gave an actual definition of what human trafficking is. I go over the whole thing by the UN's definition, not just the United States. The UN's definition includes illegal organ trafficking as well as human trafficking, and anyone under the age of 18 engaging commercial sex as a trafficking victim. I go over all of this in the beginning of the interview. I don't know why you're cherry picking the one part that I did a horrible job of explaining. Well, I know why. Because it was a smear campaign, just like I always said. How could I explain that situation? Regardless, even old Twitter investigated it. Old Twitter investigated the account the abuser created and decided to take it down. And because of the imposter profile, I got my first meeting with Twitter corporate that Jack Dorsey set up. I want to be very careful what I say right now. Jack and I were acquainted, but I never asked him for help. Because I was scared. I didn't know. I was like, what's going on here? I didn't ask for his help in pulling it down. I went through the proper channels. Technically, it was the only way I could report it, an impersonation account. What else should I have reported it as? There was no explicit human trafficking. It wasn't like I said, I'm selling this girl. It was just connected to my Instagram. I didn't have it set up. But I wanted to let them know that I have an abuser out there that set up this imposter account. I did not set up that profile. No, I'm not going to stream the State of the Union because I think it's going to be boring, to be honest. I don't know. Is anyone watching the State of the Union tonight? Come watch Nothing Remotely Controversial. It's going to be so much better. She said the abuser made it so that Twitter could redirect to her Instagram, which he had control of. Now, to be clear, remember that this is what she says was taking place during the second time she was trafficked. Sometimes I still find dating profiles of me. I didn't set those dating profiles up. So obviously there's something nefarious going on. So with Twitter, there was no way to report human trafficking. Whiteness is the power structure, the bourgeoisie? Yes, exactly. The power structure, the landlord, the capitalist, the bourgeoisie, they all have different nuanced meanings, as I'm sure you know, because you do follow James Lindsay. I know you do. But insofar as explaining it and teaching it to people at the very beginning, I basically teach them as though they all mean basically the same thing. There is nuance between them, but essentially, whiteness means capitalism, the power structure, the boss, the landlord, the bourgeoisie class. Amazon Eve, we're getting along quite well right now, but I do not use the term anti-white on my channel, and I do not allow the term anti-white on my channel. And if you would like to know why I don't allow the term anti-white on my channel, you can refer to this article on my Substack called "The Backlash to Critical Race Theory Here," and they're trying to co-opt the anti-CRT movement. I will put a link in the chat. This is the movement which the anti-white term comes from. We don't use it on my channel. We're having a respectful dialogue right now, and so I am going to respectfully ask that you don't use it while you're here. There are a lot of reasons for that. And I hope we can continue to have a respectful dialogue. All right. Let's see. So with Twitter, there was no way to report human trafficking. There still isn't. You can only report child sexual abuse material or non-consensual nudity. You cannot report straight up human trafficking. You can't report labor trafficking. That's been one of my suggestions for them. Because people sell people from labor trafficking on Twitter and Facebook. There's a huge thing about that with Facebook in different languages, Arabic specifically, to the point where the Apple Store has threatened to pull them down. So I get like why people don't understand that, but like that's kind of a lot of not my problem. I'm just telling the story exactly how it was. Well, we're going to be doing a psychic episode tonight at 9:30. You can come back in about 3 hours or hang out or whatevs. There are people rejoicing now in how many Twitter followers you're losing. I could lose thousands of followers. I don't care, she said. I could have 5 followers on Twitter and I don't care. It's just Twitter. It could all go away tomorrow. I love Twitter for a lot of reasons, but she looked at one of the cowboy hats displayed inside the truck stop. You're also supposedly pregnant with Elon's kid, I said. Well, let's talk about that in a second. But you know how I think, what one of the main reasons I think Eliza Blue is for real? She doesn't care about the numbers. I'm of the same thing, man. Every single person that I see saying, the numbers, those are the grifters, man. I have said it a million times. There have been times when I've said something that the conservative right did not want to hear, and I have lost thousands of followers. There was one time I lost over 4,000 followers. Actually, probably more than that if you combine my platforms. There was one time that I lost thousands and thousands and thousands of followers in a single day. And I didn't care. I really didn't. Because I was like, you know what? If you're going to throw a hissy fit and you're going to have all sorts of feelings about, me saying something that you don't want to hear, I promise you there's going to be other times coming up that I'm going to tell you something you don't want to hear, and I don't want you whining in my feed when that happens. Like, you can tell the people that are real and genuine because they don't care about building these massive platforms. Building the massive platform may come as a byproduct of that, but it's not the goal of that, right? So that actually gives me faith that Eliza is telling the truth. And it makes me believe that every single person, like Chrissy Mayer, who literally had a live stream on her channel. Look at this. Let me show you this, just in case you never saw it. Let me see. Chrissy Mayer, quite literally, had a live stream on her channel. Here it is. Eliza Blue real-time Twitter following. Chrissy Mayer was celebrating Eliza Blue losing Twitter followers in real time, an over 4-hour fucking live stream where they literally just streamed her number of Twitter followers going down. You want to know why I think Chrissy Mayer is a grifter? Because her and her simp husband Frank, or boyfriend, or whatever the fuck, they're obsessed with numbers. They're obsessed with numbers. That's how you know a grifter, guys. They're obsessed with just building the biggest platform in the history of platforms. Quality be damned. See? They literally made a countdown on their site over this. How gross is that? All right, let's get that back here. Actually, okay, whatever. I love Elon Musk, but we weren't friends privately. So this is another lie that Blaire White told in her video. Blaire White is like, Eliza Blue is close personal friends with Elon Musk, and she's using that close personal friendship to get people banned on Twitter. But here we have Eliza Blue saying, we weren't friends previously. It's not that I wouldn't be. It's just that we met on Twitter Spaces. We've never met in person. He's busy, so there wasn't time to become friends, even if he desired a friendship. Same goes for the Twitter VP of Trust and Safety, Ella Irwin. We met on Spaces. We haven't met in person. They were all lying. Every single person that was like, she's a close personal friend of Elon Musk, they were lying. Elon Musk was in a Twitter space with her. That doesn't mean they're friends. She probably didn't even have his contact information or anything. He promoted a space. That was it. We drove past her house. It was past midnight. The porch lights reflected off the fields of snow. She pointed to her car in the snow. She said it was broken down. As she dropped me off at her parents' house, we got confirmation that this address had been doxed. I thought this would be a crazy place in the middle of nowhere to show up unannounced and hostile, but who knows? I honestly wouldn't be surprised if they came to the house while you're here, she said. But the way the laws are here, they can't loiter. A hint that her dad had his own way to keep the property secure. I had arranged to talk to her parents in the morning. I wanted to hear their side of everything. Eliza told me that night. Eliza drove up the long, narrow country road back to her house, which she had told me her parents let her live in. I felt like I was standing on the moon. It seemed as though I was the farthest I could possibly be in the United States away from the tech giants. Even still, Twitter was very much in the vast and cold fields in nowhere, Illinois. It felt as though all of the internet was an anvil or satellite orbiting close above, monitoring every move. And that's the end of the article. But I'm going to say something really important, guys. Shane Cashman has already written part 2 of this article. If it's not completely done, he's at least written it in his head. He's conducted all of the research already. So Shane Cashman, when this article was published, already knows what's going to be in part 2. And I would be really effing surprised if Shane Cashman published a part 2 of this article that completely and totally contradicted everything that was in part 1. Maybe he will. I could be wrong. I've been wrong before in my life. There will be times when I'm wrong again. But I would be extremely surprised. And I've read quite a bit of Shane Cashman's work now because, again, I like this more Hunter S. Thompson style long form journalism. I like what he's doing. There aren't a lot of people doing stuff like this. It's cool. But I would be really surprised based on what I've read of his so far if he completely contradicted everything he just wrote in this one. Yeah, and Tim says that the article was done. And it's 80,000 words, which is insane. For people who don't know, my books, I've written 2 books, one about mindfulness in the workplace and also Actively Unwoke. My books were between 60 and 65,000 words. If Shane Cashman legitimately wrote 80,000 words in a couple of days, holy shit. Tim must have been exaggerating. I don't think there's any possible way that Shane Cashman could write 80,000 words of an article in a couple of days. That is a book, a large book length novel. All right, guys, that is all we're going to look at today. I think I've made my point about Blaire White being an inauthentic grifter shill pretty clearly at this point. Yeah, I mean, I don't necessarily disagree with this, Amazon Eve. There's a lot to read out there, and it is impossible to read everything. But I think we need to be selective about the content we're consuming, I guess. And, you know, it's like a quality over quantity type thing. But I think that this type of journalism is dead. I really do. I think it's too bad because there's an artfulness to this form of journalism that I think is important to keep up. But I do agree with you that you can't possibly read everything on the internet. However, if someone is covering a story like Blaire White did in this video that we watched today, and there is an article like this that has come out the day before you publish your video with plenty of time to redo the video based on new information, Blaire White was fucking irresponsible that she did not even acknowledge anything in this article at all. It was ragingly irresponsible, and it only makes sense if you are an inauthentic grifter shill that is just making clickbait on the internet on issues that you're pretending to care about because they make you money so you can buy clothes and makeup and all of those things. Blaire White should just do like a makeup channel or something. I don't know why she doesn't. I don't know why she pretends to care about this stuff. To each their own, I suppose. All right, guys, I will be back in about 2.5 hours for Nothing Remotely Controversial. We will ask Joshua to psychic what is going on in this whole situation. If you've never seen Nothing Remotely Controversial, come and join us tonight. Don't watch the State of the Union. The State of the Union is going to be boring, okay? Come do news and psychics. Even if you don't believe in psychics, it's still a really fun show. We love doing it, and it's going to be great. And tomorrow, I'm getting my ass out of bed early, and we are going to stream the congressional hearings that are going to be featuring Twitter executives. That's going to start at 10 a.m. tomorrow. I've got to connect with my locals community. If you guys want to do a community Zoom tomorrow, I'm happy to provide you a link, but I do actually want to stream these congressional hearings tomorrow. So 10 a.m., grab your coffee, join us. It'll be a fun time. All right, guys, please mount that like button on your way out the door. Please subscribe to the channel if you have not already. And I'll be back in about 2.5 hours, guys. Take care. We'll see you soon.